Welcome back, Ravio Geeks, to this week's Wednesday Ramblings. I'm Ravio Leaf, and I was very tempted to talk about last week's Chucky. It was so good, one of my favorite episodes in a while. I had very little complaints about it, but something has happened that makes me want to talk about something different. If you can't tell by the shirt and the pop figures here, this week I'm going to talk about He-Man. And what brought this on is that Fall Guys weekly event this week is actually based around He-Man. You're running around collecting items from the game, and they've also released some skins for your character. You can be He-Man, Teela, Battle Cat, Orko, or of course Skeletor. And so because of that being the event for Fall Guys this week, I wanted to talk about He-Man this week. I grew up absolutely loving both He-Man and She-Ra. I don't remember She-Ra quite as well. I definitely watched it, but I remember He-Man a lot more. My absolute favorite thing from my childhood regarding He-Man was definitely the She-Ra movie. I believe it was called The Secret of the Sword, when He-Man travels from Eternia to Etheria to find who gets the second sword. There, he stumbles across Force Captain Adora, who works for the evil Horde. And eventually you find out that she is He-Man's, aka Prince Adam's, long-lost sister. She had been abducted as a child and stolen to this other world. And so she becomes She-Ra, and together they work together to temporarily stop Hordak. He then becomes the villain of She-Ra's spin-off series. But I just loved He-Man. I had so many of the figures. I won't say I had them all, but I had a lot of them. I can't even remember the villain from my favorite episode. But I want to think maybe Shigora, maybe? Something like that. It's this big Jabba the Hutt-like creature with tentacles that Skeletor summoned from another dimension in order to defeat He-Man. This creature is so powerful that it actually defeats Skeletor and his evil warriors. Whiplash is able to escape and flee to the Royal Palace, where he notifies He-Man and everyone about what's going on. And so I loved that the evil warriors and the masters of the universe had to work together. I've always liked that concept. And so the four powerful magic users, Evelyn here, Skeletor, Sorceress, and Orko, all had to use their abilities to weaken Shigora, or whatever his name was. So I loved that episode. In the 2000s, Cartoon Network released a new version of the show. It was a bit more grown up. I won't say it was like a fully adults only show, but and it did, unlike the original cartoon, it followed a continuous story, and I really liked that. And I fell in love with the character of Marzo. I've always been someone who likes alternate evils, not so much the main villain, but I like their sidekick. I do like their sidekicks or different villains who don't necessarily go along with them. Like Marzo did work with Skeletor in one storyline, but for the most part, he was his own character. Sadly, the show was canceled after only 2 seasons, after teasing that the Horde was going to arrive. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. The show was canceled. Oh, I kind of skipped over the New Adventures of He-Man because I have no memory of it. I remember I watched it. I had a few action figures from it, including like a guy in like a scuba outfit, but I don't remember anything about the story. Other than I believe He-Man and Skeletor were the only characters who were in it from the original. The rest were a bunch of new characters that I don't care about. I don't really think anyone else cares about. A few years back, Netflix decided to release a new version of She-Ra, which I really loved. This was probably the first show that when it came out, I actually binged the whole thing. A lot of people complained that She-Ra didn't look like She-Ra because she wasn't sexy, which apparently is important for cartoons. I don't know, weirdos. But I did love the show. The one thing I didn't like about the show was how it ended. Now, obviously, this is going to be spoilers. Like the 2000s version of He-Man, the new She-Ra and the Princesses of Power um, cartoon did follow a continuous storyline, and so I'm going to be revealing what happened at the end. I hated that She-Ra ended up with Catra. I know a lot of people were happy about this, but I can't get over the fact that Catra was both mentally and physically abusive to Adora throughout the entire show. Literally, she is the last character I want to see someone I like with. Catra had a lot of work and needed to be on her own, not dating someone that she has honestly abused throughout the entire season. So I hated that. Netflix has also released two new He-Man cartoons at close to the same time. The first is considered a follow up to the original cartoon. He-Man, or He-Man's not in the title. It's Masters of the Universe Revelation. This one had a lot of people angry because the main character is actually Teela, which would explain why He-Man's name isn't in the title. I didn't care about Teela being the main character. I just didn't like the storyline. And it's weird because I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, but I did not like Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela. Every time she spoke, I just kind of cringed, even before I realized it was her. And then once I did know that it was her, I couldn't. It just stuck with me. Like I never viewed her as Teela. I viewed her as Sarah Michelle Gellar voicing a character, if that makes any sense. It just, I think she's a good actress, but not a good voice actress. Is how I felt anyway. But there were various things about the storyline I didn't like. Another thing I didn't like was how I don't remember if she was trying to get the power sword or what it was, but Evil Lyn essentially fake seduces Skeletor, who before this was super paranoid about anyone getting the power sword. Yet he buys Evil Lyn's seduction attempt and basically just lets her get the sword. I'm sorry, they'd already portrayed him up as too paranoid to let that work. It didn't work for me. It felt really, really weak. There's also another version that looks much more cartoony, and it's kind of got more like, I don't know, CGI or more computer generated than traditional animation. But it is called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, I believe. And completely different takes on the characters. Adam did not grow up with his knowing who his family was. He grew up raised by Cringer, who is not the scaredy cat he is in most other media. Skeletor is back to being his uncle. That's something they introduced in the 2000 series. But he's close with the gender-swapped Ram Man. I hate that name. Um, Duncan is younger. He's no longer the royal man-at-arms. Teela is already a sorceress who does not realize her connection to the enchantress, she's called, instead of the sorceress, because Teela eventually becomes a sorceress. My favorite spin on the characters is the fact that Orko is not a magician from Trala. He is a robot created by Trapjaw that, with reprogramming, has now somehow become convinced he's the original Orko, who was a magician. But there's just a lot of fun twists on the characters in this new version that I really like. The art style took some getting used to. I hated it when I first saw it, but it's a good show. I love the voice cast in it. There are no characters who make me cringe like Sarah Michelle Gellar did in Revelation. Some of the jokes are super, super annoyingly geared towards kids, but still a pretty good show. And they just released, I think it's the third season, a couple of months ago. So it's worth checking out. So that's going to do it for this week. I just kind of wanted to detail a little bit about my love for He-Man and all things Masters of the Universe. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you play Fall Guys, make sure that you have been enjoying the He-Man event that's been going on and ends today. So make sure you play. Make sure you leave a comment, and please like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it, everyone. I'm Robbie O'Leaf, and it's time for me to Robbie O'Leaf.